What's up, everybody? Welcome to Talking with the Bostons.
Hey, y'all.
I'm Keedren,
And I'm Couture.
and we are here today, and I'm super excited about this. I'm always excited about what we're talking about.
I feel like we always say that, but we always really are. So
It's the truth.
it's the truth.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Shout out to everyone that's joining from our Facebook group, Talking with the Bostons. Shout out to those of you who are watching from YouTube. God bless your heart on today. Thank y'all for joining
Sure do
us.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do. We really do. So I hope everything is good in your life. And speaking of life, we're going to be talking about transitions from chaos to purpose. Man, yeah. Let's talk.
I think you got some things to say, old wise sage.
No.
I feel like you do.
I mean, of course, we have something to talk about. When it comes to it, just a little.
We've been through some.
Yeah, some
I
experience.
think that's what it is. We've been through some. And so we're going to share a little bit about some of ours because it's chaotic. Some people will look at your life in certain seasons and they'll either judge it because it looks so bad and like count it out.
Right.
Or they'll miscalculate what it took for you to be where you are at the time that they're looking at you. So whatever season you're in. And we just kind of want to myth bust some things, but also just start from a personal level and then kind of dial down to a practical level. So if you're like, I might be in a little bit of chaos, I'm trying to get to my purpose, I'm in the middle of some transition, or I could be, or I just got out of some transition, we're going to talk through some of those things and help you walk away with some things that you can use.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you. You all right with me?
Oh, you all right with me?
You all right with me?
Listen, when I think of transitions, things, it's like things are getting shook up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things are getting shook up, or about to, like, especially when you feel it coming. Sometimes you don't.
That's something. Right? Yeah. Sometimes those transitions can sneak up on you and sometimes they can rock your world.
Yeah.
But when we think about like us going from chaos, there are parts of our journey that were legitimately chaotic, even if they were more internal and they were in a place where people couldn't see. I know for me, like I think I mentioned at our last speaking event, I just came off the Orange tour. Shout out to Orange and our Orange family. I appreciate y'all for bringing your girl on. But I was sharing with the group that strangely enough, I was in a crazy transition that was pure chaos when my husband met me.
Yeah.
Like he met me when I was like doing my works. Like I was doing bad, y'all.
Oh, let's talk about that. I mean, not just you doing bad, but
like
just
I was doing bad though. I was doing bad. Like my family was doing bad. Like we were in this crazy transition. We had just moved from El Paso, and it wasn't like, hey, we're moving, say goodbye to your friends. We're gonna pack up and move, and we're gonna start a new life in another city. It was like abrupt, middle of the night. Yeah. We're moving, we're leaving, don't look back. Sheesh. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But this is what we got to do. And it was just like, oh,
yeah.
Like a whirlwind. So if I fast forward to the time where I met Keedren, like we were just in some bad places. Like we had dealt with some homelessness, just some uncertainty, some instability while my mom was still getting on her feet. And shout out to my mom, because I'm going to tell you what, in every transition, the consistent and the common denominator has always been her. She just knows how to stabilize an unstable situation, no matter whether she caused it or it was caused. And she was just trying to make sure she held it down for our family. She did that.
That's real.
And she's still doing that. Like my mom is still a writer in that way. But anyway, when we moved there, we were still in the middle of some transition. We were living in what I did not know were the courts. Some of the San Antonio courts. If y'all are from San Antonio, you know where the courts are. And there's no shame. If you still live there, look, that's where you live. That's your community. That's your home. Because for a minute, it seemed like the Buckingham Palace, given what we had just been through. Like,
man. So where you came from seemed like the Buckingham.
Yes, it seemed like it was the best because it was at least stabilized, but work was hard. It was scarce, around there with resources, food, different things. And I just remember going to school and eating lunch and breakfast with, the new people who I had come to know. and them just looking at me like just looking so put together, and I'm answering questions in class, and they see me taking notes, and they see this, and for some reason a lot of the girls were really like interested, like, is that your real hair? Like that was the thing that drew people to me. There was nothing else. I wasn't just the new girl. People wanted to know if my hair was real. And so that was different for me, because that was never a thing, you know, where I came from. Now I'm a junior now by the time I'm in San Antonio. Never in my life, that just was not a thing. So that's what drew people. So those were the first friends I made, were the people who were just interested in knowing if my hair was real. And I would eat breakfast and lunch with them, free lunch program. I remember being one day like, I wonder if there's going to be an opportunity for me to like do work study or work, because there was another girl that I had met, and she was leaving halfway in the middle of the day, and she was a senior though, and she had a job. And I thought, I wonder if I got enough credits and I had some free time in my schedule, could I get a work study job too? And I could work and make a little bit more money and help my family out, and, you know, kind of, you know, be eating and helping out a little bit more the way she was. And so I remember that year I had to reach out to my previous school to recover some credits that like my current school didn't have, because remember when I moved, it wasn't like it was like a full-on transfer. I didn't have all that paperwork. It was abrupt. It was chaotic. And I asked my mom, I said, can I tell them that I can call my old school? And she was just in such a place where like she believed in me. She was like, I don't know what to do. If you can do it, if you can figure it out, yes, you know. And so I called the other school and I asked to speak to the principal, and I said, can you please tell Miss Kwan from Parkland High School, if she can please have the office send my school records to the school, because this school wanted to actually put me back in 9th grade because I didn't have a transcript with me.
Crazy. From the 11th grade?
Chaos. I'm an 11th grader. I'm an 11th grader, and it is winter. So school's already started for me. I'm in 11th grade. And this assistant principal was like, we're going to put her back in 9th grade if we don't get this paperwork. So I talked to Miss Kwan, and the only reason why I knew who Miss Kwan was because earlier in the school year, I joined this club called PALS, Peer Assistance and Leadership. And I worked with our special needs population on the campus. It was my favorite thing to do. I didn't want to like help in the cafeteria, home ec, like that was my squad. And so that's how I got to know her. And I didn't even know her long. Well, she heard what I needed, and she went ahead and sent my transcripts, and they put me in the right grade. And I thought all was settled. And it still was not. This school required uniforms. Do you remember Fox Tech having uniforms?
I do, yeah.
Khaki and white. Now, I didn't have a ton of clothes, but I had about a good week's worth of clothes that we had packed and had put in a car to get to San Antonio from El Paso. So I had a few things, but I didn't have uniforms. I didn't have a white polo shirt. I didn't have khaki pants, khaki skirt. Like, honestly, I'm not even gonna front. I was flying in that. I was a little bit flying in that, you know, dressing. And we had stuff. Like we left everything that we had. Like I had all those things. We had a nice home. We had furniture in it. So when we left abruptly, we left all of that behind. Okay. So this is a whole new thing for me. I'm talking chaos, y'all. Chaos. I have a newborn baby. Right? Because I've told some of my story where y'all know I was a teen mom, have this newborn baby, and my little brother is with us. So all of us, like, we just have a few things and we're getting settled in this new place. And this is how he meets me. I'm wearing a Goodwill khaki skirt. And I got one pair of pants for free at something like, they said, if you come by here and you bring a canned good, you can get khaki pants for free. And so my logic was, well, a canned good is like 15 or 20 cents. If I get that, if I just, you know, I stole a can. Okay. I stole a canned good.
Well,
I stole a canned good.
I don't think I knew that.
It was for a food drive, and they were exchanging, they were giving out uniforms, and they had a food drive. And I stole one canned good and brought it. And they gave me one pair of khaki pants and one polo shirt. So I had the one polo shirt and I had the one pair of khaki pants. Then from Goodwill, I think maybe a week or so later. So I wore the same khaki pants every day. They were clean though. We put them in the tub with baking soda and like dish soap and stomped them. And I just had to air dry them. They were super crunchy, super wrinkled, but we had an iron. So I just ironed them every day. I learned that when I got to tech that it was all about the stay flow and the crease. I ain't have no stay flow. So I literally one day after school, and I know it sounds like I'm all over the place, but this is where I would track with me.
No, that's good.
I remember one of my friends, I'm not going to say her name because she was in a struggle too, and I don't want to tell part of her story, but she had Stay Flow. So I had brought my khaki pants to her house after school. She sprayed them with Stay Flow for me. Then I took them back home and I used my iron to iron them.
Wow.
Like, come on, y'all.
Yeah. Wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Yeah.
So I have my skirt, my long skirt, my one pair of khaki pants, and my one shirt. And the good thing is that I'm not a sweater because I surely would have had those gray like underarm patches from wearing the same shirt like continuously over and over again. So obviously once my mom got a little bit more money, you know, she did buy me another shirt and I got another khaki skirt. So I had one long khaki skirt, one knee length khaki skirt, one pair of khaki pants, and then I had 2 school polo shirts that I wore from junior year through senior year.
Wow. Wow.
Same stuff. And it was always clean and it was always ironed and my hair was always combed and I was a great student and nobody could tell.
Right. But there was chaos going on.
Chaos.
From the transition.
Yes.
Still trying to piece life together, still trying to figure things out, still trying to get things back into place.
Yes.
Yeah, I can picture that. Just, you know, definitely meeting you then and connecting with you, but then also learning the inside of your story.
Yeah.
From my perspective, because of course at that age, I mean, you know, I had my mom and my, you know, 2-parent home, you know, had clothes every year, you know, new clothes every year before school. I mean, it wasn't much. I mean, it was for me, I always look forward to getting some outfits, even if it was
that was my
3-4 pair of
before San
pants.
Antonio.
That was a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was used to, and things changed instantly for me.
Yeah. Understood. So abruptly, and sometimes not chaos, but transition is like that. It's crazy, all of a sudden.
Yes.
Right. And I want to I'm gonna put up some points on the screen, and we can kind of talk about those as we go through for this time that we'll spend together today. But the first thing I want to put up with, and we can just we could talk about it and go from there.
Okay.
Is when it comes to transitioning, talking about embracing change.
Okay.
Right. Because in your case, and in some of our cases, transition is not an option. You know what I mean? Like, especially when you think of children.
Yeah.
You know, or if you have kids and you know,
you mean like it's not an option? Like
it's not an option for them. Yeah, like you have to deal with it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I say especially for children, but sometimes for adults too. It's like we got to move. We have to go. I have to, and it's not necessarily always a bad thing, but you don't always necessarily. You're not ready all the time. You know what I mean? It might be time, but you might not be ready because it's like all the connections that we had, the people, family, all those things like that. And so thinking about embracing change and transition.
Yeah.
What comes to mind off top when you think of that, you know, the unpredictability of life's transitions and having to embrace that change?
I think back then, I'll just do the comparison because I didn't know if they would parallel. Back then, I think I chose to externally embrace the change, but mentally, I still did not understand. I was still trying to make sense of how quickly my world had changed. And there's still so many details, y'all, that I cannot share on this internet, right? I could not wrap my head around some of the change, but there was a part of the change that I was adamant to embrace. Like, I need to still keep up my grades. I still want to help my mom out. I still want to make her proud. I still have goals. I still now, and I have this child. So I'm like, I still want to be dope. I still want to make sure he's good and spend time with him. And, you know, for some reason, and I know it was the grace of God, but I had the mind, like, I need to come home and still read with him every day, talk to him, help him develop language. And I mean, like, he's so smart. Like, it's my Aaron.
Yeah.
But, you know, there was still something inside me that still had this thrive and this drive in me left. Like, it was some fight left in me. And it was before this change happened. And I did not know that God was preparing me for this. But I was up one night
Mm-hmm.
watching BET. Now, this was just before Aaron was born. I was pregnant with him, and I was probably about 8-9 months pregnant with Aaron. And BET, Black Entertainment TV, some of y'all remember that. The videos had gone up. I was watching a TD Jakes message, and he was talking about the story of Mephibosheth and David going back to him. And the message was delayed but not denied. And so it spoke to me in such a way that it gave me hope. I was like, delayed but not denied. So this might be a setback. Being pregnant young might be a setback, and I'm going to be a mom young, and that might be a setback. But and which means setback means delays, right? But I'm not denied. There's still a place for me.
Yeah.
You know, there's still a place for me. Like, God's still going to work everything out. And so I remember that night in my living room being like, I'm still going to be a good student while I'm here. Yeah. I'm still going to be kind to people. Like, I'm not going to become jaded about life. I'm not going to be bitter or mad or mean to anyone. Like, I'm going to choose joy.
Yeah.
And so I did that, but I did not know that like 3 months later, that would be this huge transition. And I would like totally just like disappear and not even really be able to explain to like my friends like what happened to me. I was just gone.
That's tough.
And so choosing to embrace the change, like I know it was the strength and the grace of God.
Yeah.
Especially, and you've known me over the years, like I've never been like angry about it or bitter. Yeah. And only God can do that, y'all. Yeah. Only God can make you see that there's something bigger, and God can turn like from all flowers come dirt, right? That's not deep, but it's just one of those things that when I think back now and I parallel it, God was preparing me for something even bigger than just having a child. There was going to be a whole transition, and our world in my life as I knew it was going to be turned upside down, and he was going to be there. And I just needed that seed. I needed that word. I needed that message before all of that happened, because it was my anchor. And my mom even tells me that during that time, like when she was going through what she was going through mentally and emotionally and spiritually, that it was me, you know, praying her through and holding on and still being good and not giving her a hard time, like all of those things. And part of me is like, God, that was a part of all of our bigger story.
Yeah.
So sometimes your chaos doesn't feel that way, because chaos doesn't feel like that when you're in it. Turmoil does not feel like it's going to be a blessing.
Man, yeah. No, don't look like it either. You know. Wow. Yeah. No, that's good. It's making me think. I want to pull up this scripture, you know, just to talk about change, because I think just seasons. Yeah, just the seasons of life. And some of you may know this scripture. Yeah. But it's definitely one that I think kind of sets the tone about what we're going to talk about just for a little bit. It's in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 through 8.
Yes, y'all know it.
Yeah. Y'all and so this is what it says. There is a season, an appointed time for everything, and a time for every delight and event or purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, time to plant, and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up as lost. Wow. A time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear apart and a time to sew together, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
Yes.
When we think of all of these things, this kind of tells me that change is inherent, like when it comes to life.
Yes.
Like it's almost like an essential part of our life so that we can progress, so that we can grow. There's so many different things that we go through in life, and change is good for us. But when we understand that there's a time and a season for everything, I think that kind of helps set the tone for us to understand that, you know, it may not always feel natural, but it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might not always feel natural because it might feel chaotic at first or throughout, the situation.
Yeah.
But it is a natural part of life and necessary for our growth and progress. And so I just want to think of, what do y'all think about that as y'all are tapping in? And so thank y'all for joining. Chris, good to see you, Kimpo. Miss Linda, Scooter, thank y'all for all tuning in.
No, please.
Yes.
Hold on. Pause here.
Yes.
Scooter was one of my friends when I was going to high school.
It's real.
In El Paso, Parkland High School.
Yeah.
Scooter knew me during this season. Scooter, if you're still on here, let me know.
Yeah.
Tap some hearts or something so I know that I'm talking directly to you. Let me know that you're on here or say something in the comments. Y'all, Scooter knew me back before all this. So, hi, Scooter. Scooter, don't make me cry. My favorite teacher, Mr. Vanley, was Scooter's uncle.
It's real.
And yes, and I think I even had him for PALS too, but I had him for another class, English, as well. And he was one of my favorite teachers. And he was the first teacher that I told that I was pregnant. Mr. Vanley, Scooter's uncle. And Scooter was just such a great friend, like through like he saw me like through all of that season. Yeah. And that's cool that you're here. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for the compliment. Scooter says I did well. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So appreciate
but
you.
Yeah. Wow. Such a good person, such a good guy.
Yeah.
But so you also know too that season for me. And I don't feel like God allowed me to miss a beat. I transferred with the best grades, once I was able to get my transcript, because he knows Miss Kwan too, that was our principal. That was who I was talking about in the beginning. So some of you who jumped on a little bit later, I was talking about having to call my own principal to get my transcripts when I moved because I didn't have anything with me. And she was the only one who could vouch for me and say, go ahead and send her records. And not only that, I still had a textbook that usually if you had a textbook, that wasn't turned in, you definitely could not, get your transcript. So it was a big deal. Yeah. Oh, Scooter, don't do that. Don't do that.
Listen. But look at this, like throughout life, like especially when I think about our story, and I think it's beautiful because it's been over 20 years that I've got a chance to see you grow, to watch you grow, but also
24.
Every time we talk about your transition, because there was a time that we weren't together, and every time I hear your story and how God brought you to me.
That's what it was all for.
Yeah,
so my husband could find me.
Man, that's but it was chaotic, like transition. Man, it is chaotic at times because for the simple fact that especially if it's unexpected.
That'd be it.
That'd be the thing.
It's the unexpected.
Right? But let's talk about that. So so now we're together thinking about our lives, and of course, guys, we're going to use kind of like our story and our transition that we've had over life to kind of talk through what we're sharing today. So we're going to walk it that way. So when I think of a transition in my life,
you've had some big ones too.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we've done a lot together, but even just from perspectives, it's important to I want to kind of tap into that. Mm-hmm. But I remember, let's talk about ministry. We're in a ministry in church, for a while, especially once my parents gave their life to Christ and their lives changed. Then we were a part of different ministries throughout the years.
Yeah.
And as we grew. Right. Let's say after we graduated and I moved away to college, of course, gig them
yes.
I'm an Aggie.
Did you do that? Okay.
It's I figured find some kind of way to talk about it. No, but even just transitioning from living in San Antonio, from going to school, in San Antonio to going to school away.
Yeah.
Right. And I've still been in a relationship.
Yeah.
Having to and it was hard, y'all. Like it was hard me leaving everything that I'd known. I hadn't known anybody else that had, went to a university, went away and stayed on campus. I did that, and it was low key scary at first. You know what I mean?
You were 17 when you went.
I was 17.
Yes.
I'm 3 hours away from home and everything that I know, everyone that I love.
Yes.
Trying to figure it out. But I knew that I wanted better, for myself. I wanted to accomplish this goal that seems so big, it
Yeah.
definitely was for me, but I didn't feel like it was unattainable.
Yeah.
Even though I had certain people that was like, educators that was like, you should go to this different school. Don't go there,
Right.
But it's all good. I wanted to take that challenge on, and so anyway, with that being said, being able to go away to school. And I remember when I turned 18 years old, my birthday's August 24th. So it was always at the beginning of school.
Yeah.
And when I was at A&M, for a freshman on campus, I turned 18. And on my 18th birthday, it was family day. It was family day. I'm in College Station. My family lives in San Antonio. My mother and father, they're hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
They were moving the stores. They were truck drivers. So their schedule was just not, as flexible as they probably would have preferred in those times. Now they did take me, drop me off, and they were there. They were able to move me in campus.
So
that was
great.
dope. That was dope.
Yeah.
But that was a week or so before. So it was just like, now I'm on campus by myself on my 18th birthday. And I remember walking that campus, feeling like that huge campus, feeling like, man, this is crazy. Like I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to make it. You know what I mean? But knowing and understanding that I was there for a purpose, like on a mission, like I need to get my degree, and that's my goal.
That's so good.
I was in the Corps of Cadets, because I wanted to be in the Air Force. I wanted to fly. I wanted to be a pilot, but I knew I wanted to be in the military at that time. And but I remember being on campus like, man, this is crazy. It felt chaotic for me because I didn't have. I knew I had support, but I didn't feel it because I couldn't see it. You know what I mean? And so anyway, for me, that was a big deal, transitioning from being able to see you a few times a week, being able to see my parents and my siblings every day, my family every day, and then having to move away to not see any of that. That transition was a little crazy for me to move into something that I didn't know.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I thought you handled it well. You made it look so much easier than it was, because I don't know. There was just something about you. You were very mission and driven. And I remember always knowing that. I remember in high school calling you a deacon and just knowing that you were just going to do some great things. But I wasn't even thinking career-wise. I was thinking about the great things that you would do for God. I just knew that you were going to be someone who was going to serve God well.
Yeah.
I knew that.
And I certainly wasn't thinking like that. You know what I mean?
I knew it. I knew it. And then he became a deacon, and he's an elder and a pastor and is serving kids, and has helped us a lot of how you felt on campus, because my campus experiences were different. I lived either at home or in my own apartment and had to go back and forth to school, for college. But he actually lived in a dorm and was away from family. And so it was a different experience. And I think that those transitions and how we felt and what we learned have helped us with our two kids being in college. Because I do feel like we get a little bit more, I think, response from them, rather than them not knowing or believing that we don't understand what they're dealing with when they have to go to the admissions office, when they're trying to figure out financial aid, when they're trying to figure out how to order their classes and arrange their schedules and all of that stuff. Them just kind of knowing that we've been through it too, and that we can empathize. We can also empathize with a failing grade, or a professor that doesn't teach with your learning style in mind, or missing a deadline by mistake and having to figure out how you're going to make that up and what that looks like, filling out your deadline forms on time. Those are all things we've been able to give to them, but those were all hardships that we also endured, trying to get through. Like, it took, when I tell you, we both took a lot longer to graduate than we planned to initially, right?
No,
we were trying to figure it out.
No, seriously. It was a lot of
trial and error.
Living
and learning. School of the hard knocks. What else? Some of y'all know.
Man, no, for real.
Y'all know.
And, that's real. I'm sitting here like just thinking about, oh man, for real. Look at this right here. I like this. When we look back and wonder how we got over. Right? That's
oh my God.
That's real.
It was, but for the grace of God. Like, he's so good. He is so good. When we talk, so just to reiterate, when we talk about going from chaos to purpose, chaos is going to look different for everyone.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's in those transitions that you experience that chaos, that tension.
Yeah.
And we just want to challenge you to lean into the tension. We can talk about some of those things now because there are some transitions and some level of chaos that we have watched the Lord like walk us through. We've watched him show up. I've actually recently thanked God for the prayers that he did not answer for me. Because I have learned over the years that he is so sovereign and his will is so much better than my best idea. I'm like, Lord, I concede, like, you got it. You got it. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to hear? Like, let's do this together. How about you give me the instructions and I'll be the hands and feet of you? How about you tell me what to do? I'll do it, and together we'll both have great success and you get the glory. Right? I've conceded that because over the years, and we're both 40 now. So yes, we know some things now at 40 that we did not know, you know, at 15 and 16 and 17 and 18 and 19. And y'all know 2-3 decades ago that we didn't know that we know now. Almost 3.
Oh, but yeah, you can still stay 3 days.
I'm just saying. Well, yeah, it's a journey.
Right, yeah.
So, you know, sometimes people are afraid to admit that they're in chaos still. Like you might still be in a transition that's kind of rocking your world. And so we want to talk to you too. You know, we want our voice to connect with you too. And that if you will stay in it, if you will trust God, if you are a believer, if you are a believer, just think back on God's track record for all the times that he didn't show up the way you thought he should. Think about the times when he did, and you're like, man, I know that was nobody but God. Give God glory for that.
That's good. Yeah.
And just know that his track record is good. And I think when we were coming up, we used to hear this saying, like, he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time.
Always on time.
He's always on time.
Yeah.
But when you understand and you mature and you understand the sovereignty of God, you understand, like, God does hear your prayers.
Yeah.
God does love you. God does see you. God does know you. And no, we can't explain every atrocity that happens, especially when they happen to good people. But what we do know is that there's nothing wasted. So even though there was a season where I could look back on that time and be like, man, gosh, like, what do I need to repent for? To undo any of this chaos? Like, what do I need to do? And I started to see over the years, like, daughter, this is not a punishment.
Yeah.
Son, this is not a punishment. This is me walking you through life. Remember how I talked about in the beginning, how there were things that God was preparing you for in one season that you didn't know that you were going to need in your next season.
Yeah.
But because we serve a God that sees around the corner and we only see to the corner, it is to our advantage to know that he loves us enough and we can put our trust in him better than ourselves, better than our own ideas, better than any man, better than any plan.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And so nothing wrong with plans, but it's God who establishes his plan in your life. And there are times when we celebrate the fact that his plans and our plans actually align. And when that happens, that's a good thing. That means we're moving in step with him.
Yeah.
And we can be grateful for that. But for the times where he checks us when we're out of step, that still means love. Because if he didn't love us and he didn't care, you wouldn't feel that check in your spirit. Like, what's happening?
Man, yeah.
That's your sign to just pause and say, God, okay, what are you calling me to in this season? Because the one thing that will always be consistent is change. The one thing that will never change is that there will be change. That's going to always be.
Yeah. That's real. That's real. Chris said, I learned a lesson and it made me stronger. That's real. That's real talk, man.
I mean, that's what smart people do.
Listen.
Like, who wants to keep going through it over and over again?
Look,
sometimes I did. Like, who wants to? Nobody. But how many of us did? I mean, sometimes.
Right. Man, I wrote a few notes down about this. I want to kind of say before we move to the next point.
Okay, go for it.
When it comes to embracing change, right?
Yeah.
It's important to recognize that when we're facing transitions in life, that transitions bring both challenges and opportunities, right?
Preach.
You know what I mean? The challenges, because now you're facing new terrain, but also there's new opportunities for you to explore, to grow in. Sometimes the terrain is bigger, you know, and it's just like, now I can really spread my wings, you know, because that's how we grow, you know, even In agriculture, or when you're growing, if for those of you who have the green thumb and you're growing plants, you may start a plant in a small pot,
Right.
but depending on the potential of that that
that
particular
plant.
plant, it can get bigger. And so as it grows, you have to move it from one pot to a bigger pot so that the roots won't be restrained, because it won't grow to its full potential. And so there are challenges, but there are also opportunities when it comes to transitions.
Yeah,
And then
that's so good.
this next point, thank you. When we understand that change is a part of God's design, then we can approach life's transitions with faith, hope, and with resilience, knowing that, look,
Ooh,
God is
yes.
in control.
Yes.
No matter what's happening right now.
Yes.
I know I'm going to be good. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you can keep hope alive.
Yes, come
in
on, right
those
on. Keep hope alive.
transitions. You know what I mean?
Yes. And I'm glad that you said that, because when you have hope, even when it doesn't feel good,
Mhm.
you can still know that you are good. Like you said, you can look
Yeah.
at the situation and say, if God is in this, I'm going to be good.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
You may not feel good, but if God is for you, he's more than not just the world, but everything in it. So that circumstance, that situation, that turmoil, that chaos.
Yeah.
Because the adverse to you not leaning into that chaos is you not reaching your purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's on the road to that.
Yeah.
So if you just want every stumbling block, aka every opportunity for you to grow, to be removed, then you're not ready to go into that next season that's going to lead you to your purpose and destiny. And your purpose and destiny is truly on the other side of your walk.
No,
and you discover your purpose along the way, right?
That's good.
You're not just meant to do one thing.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't just meant to do one thing. Like, for example, you're an amazing husband. I know that was a part of your purpose. You were born to be a husband. You were born to be a dad, because you're a great, great dad. Our kids love you. They look up to you. They learn from you. I can see like how amazing our boys are because of you. I can see how balanced and stable our daughters are because of you. Like, that's a part of your purpose too. But you also serve in the education sector. That's a part of your purpose. You also, and all of those things came in different seasons.
Yeah.
Fatherhood, being a husband, being an educator, being a youth pastor, all of those things came in at different seasons. But you're on a journey where you do all of those things kind of in tandem or simultaneously, but you still have pots that you focus in. So, I mean, not focusing, that you operate in,
right,
depending on the time. So sometimes you are just picking up things along the way. You don't know how they're going to serve you later as it pertains to you, finally running into and meeting your purpose. So understand that every part of your journey is a part of your purpose.
Yeah.
Your purpose is not like the end destination. I know we call it destiny, and that means the end, but your purpose is everything leading up to that destiny. And then after you reach your destiny, after you reach your end, you look back on all that stuff and you say, oh, that's legacy.
Yeah.
Legacy is what you leave behind. Destiny is what's ahead. Purpose is how you get to it.
That's real. Yeah, that's real. I mean, you all up in the next point. You know what I mean?
What's
because the next point is finding identity. Like,
yes, I love
in
that.
transition. Like, there are some, you just cannot stay in certain places in order to be who you are meant to be.
Like that plant.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It won't get to its full potential in that environment.
Sometimes you have to move. Sometimes you have to go in order to grow, and so everything that you were saying, you know what I mean? And it's the same for you, because you're a great mother, an outstanding wife and teacher.
Thank you.
But you have those different lanes that you operate in. But here's the thing, and I think you've grown in every last one of those places over the years, because it's always been in you. Like, all the years that I've known you, from when you first became a mother, and as you've transitioned throughout the years and moved, you've become a greater mother, a wiser mother, more intuitive mother, intentional mother. And it's the same as far as, as far as in ministry, right? The phases of your life, the changes, even though transitions that we've had have been, a little rocky at first, because we're being uprooted.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever took a plant from out of the ground, it's it looked like a murder scene, low key. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
it
Because
really
it's like
does.
you got dirt dropping all off, the roots are looking bare. You know, it's like, what is going on? Like, I'm coming out of the place that I was getting. First of all, I was stable,
Yeah.
right? And second of all, I'm getting what I need from that ground right there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so when I'm uprooted, it's like, man, what is going on? Like, I need to get back stable, you know. But
Yes.
when I look throughout the years, how God has guided us, and many of you and your stories, as you're thinking about this, you're going through the Rolodex of your mind and how you've
Yes.
transitioned throughout the
Yep.
years, how
Yep.
God has established you and reestablished you
Yeah.
throughout the years. But also, I know that some of us couldn't be who we are now if we stayed where we were. You know what I mean? And finding identity in the transition, through the transition.
Right.
That's purposeful.
Yes. And finding our identity again in Christ
For sure. Oh man, yeah, establishing in
through
that. Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
transition, because
Mhm.
sometimes you can stay in a place so long that you think that it's you and that it's all you are. And the truth is, I don't know why while you're talking, I keep seeing this analogy that you made, this example that you made with the plant and the root system, right? Seeing that potential in it. And there's a difference between being snatched out
Mhm.
of the
Right.
soil and snatched out of the environment. Some damage might be done, but those roots are so resilient. Most of them, if put back into another environment, they'll find their way
Mhm. For sure.
again. But I know the last time I repotted a plant, sad story, it still didn't make it because I overwatered it, but I was very careful in the transition part. And that's a whole nother preach. Look, I
Yeah.
overwatered it. Like, I tried to
Yeah.
overcompensate
Right.
because I moved it. Then I thought I gotta do too much, and I started doing too much to it. But when I was transitioning it from the smaller pot to the bigger environment, I was very careful to like go up under it with my hands and like
Mhm.
gently dust off the lumps of soil and the clumps around it, and to gently detangle it, not to disturb the root system, and make sure that they were intact to go into the new soil. And I even tried to add some of the old soil around the roots, so that it would acclimate to the new
Oh, that's so
soil
sweet.
using some of the old soil. Right. I was like, maybe it's like your blankie, and if you smell
Yeah.
something
Oh
familiar,
my goodness.
I don't know. I'm a mommy.
That's
So, that's what I did. But then I didn't trust the process.
mm.
See, I could have just left it alone. I knew that it didn't need more because I understood how to care for this plant, because I had gotten it from a baby to where it was, and it was just trying to transition.
Yeah.
And I was so careful with it. And so we have to be careful how we manage our transitions
That's
as
true.
well.
Yeah.
But then a part of me lost faith. I stopped trusting the process.
Yeah.
And that's what you can't do. You can't lose the faith. You can't stop trusting what God said do. When God moves you, it may be uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar.
Yeah.
It's unfamiliar. And because when I moved that plant, it was unfamiliar, I kind of threw out what I knew about continuing to raise this plant. And I dumped so much water on it that it flooded the root system, and the soil stayed wet for so long because there wasn't enough sun to soak it up and dry it. So I just overdid it. It was overkill. And I remember saying to myself, I should have just repotted it and left it alone
Yeah.
and trusted the process.
Yeah.
It would have been fine.
Because it wasn't unhealthy.
No, it was healthy.
It
And
wasn't unhealthy. Yeah.
the root system is intelligent
Yeah.
enough. And the environment, the new soil knows
Yeah.
what its job is. The new soil knew that its job was to give nutrients to that plant. And the root system knew that it was its job to absorb the nutrients from that soil.
It just needed a new pot.
It just needed a new pot.
And that's like some of
It
us.
just needed
Like
a new environment
when we transition,
to grow.
doesn't mean all the time we're unhealthy.
Right.
It's like we just need a new pot. We need a bigger pot.
Right.
You know?
And it doesn't have to be turmoil or
yeah.
chaos in order for you to move.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not your indication.
Yeah.
Right. That does just be obedient.
Yeah. Yeah. And even in that, like I think, I believe that it's important to not just try to move just to move.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I think that
talk about that.
That's important too,
Mm-hmm.
because like I say, and I've said this before, like it's important to really honor where you are. Next is always a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
really feel like it's
I'm glad you
important to
said that.
honor being in the now. Like,
I'm
where are
glad
you
you
at
said
right
that.
now?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we're always looking for the next thing, then we will neglect the now thing. You know what I'm saying? We will neglect,
Yeah.
or we're more likely to neglect what's happening now when we're focused so much on the next.
Right.
And so it is important to be prayerful, to be intentional when it comes to your transitions, because I know at least 2 or 3 transitions, major transitions. I know 2 major transitions that we've had.
Yeah.
I was hesitant because I just wanted to make sure we were doing the right thing. Like, I wanted to make sure not just what we wanted to do, because it didn't even start with us. You know what I mean? In that way. And so when we pray and we're asking God to guide us and order our steps, and to, God, just lead us to what you have for us. And we're praying for all these things, we got to be ready for God's answer. Like, it's not going to always look like we want it to look, or how other people want it to look for us.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's important to note, is like, just be intentional. Just because you get an opportunity doesn't mean you have to go for it.
No,
you know what I mean? So I did want to say that it is important, for your purpose, to be intentional about, that transition. And so the best way I can say to do that is to be prayerful and to seek wise counsel, and make sure you have people that can talk some sense into you, and not talk you out of some things, because to help you reason, because it can be scary, talking about our next point when it comes to transitioning, right? It can be frightening.
It can.
The unexpected.
And we were just at a children's ministry conference, and one of the speakers made this point. We heard it before, but for some reason it hit differently, seeing it this way this time. But he was sharing that faith is important in overcoming fear, but faith isn't necessarily the opposite of doubt, or doubt isn't the opposite of fear, but the opposite of faith is certainty. And so when you feel uncertain, that's when you become afraid. But faith is saying, even in that uncertainty,
right,
if I know down in my know, and I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, even if I'm uncomfortable and I feel like this is what God is saying, this is what I'm being led to do. Maybe it's what you prayed for, and then when it happened, you were like, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden you become concerned, like, can I really do this? Well, what about this? What about that? And you start thinking and trying to figure things out. And it is human nature, because self-preservation is the number one goal of all human and animal species, to survive. So it's natural that we start thinking about, like, how are we going to make it? But when you are trusting and believing in God, and that's what this whole thing is about, there is some element where you have to take your hands off of it and say, God, even if I am uncertain about this thing, I'm certain about you.
That's good. Yeah.
I'm certain about you. I'm certain about your love for me. I'm certain about your purpose and your plan for me. And I'm certain that I've had harder decisions in the past, or I've had other hard decisions, and you got me through those. Obviously, because I'm here.
Yeah.
You got me through those. And so if you did it before, you can do it again. Just help me with my confidence and my courage to take the next steps. And this is what you are calling me to do.
Man, that's big.
That is really it.
Yeah.
And sometimes overcoming your fear just means I'm going to do it afraid.
Yeah.
Overcoming something doesn't mean that thing goes away.
Say that.
Right? To overcome something still means that I have to lean into it. I have to come in contact with it. I have to meet that fear.
Right.
I have to meet it. I have to face it. So sometimes that's when people say, do it afraid. I would say this is that statement. Overcoming your fear sometimes mean I'm going to do it even if I don't feel 100% comfort or 100% peace. I'm going to do it because I feel 100% like I need to be obedient to what God is saying.
Boom.
And maybe that needs to trump my emotions, whether
Sure.
it's because even if you can have peace about something and still be wrong.
Yeah, man.
You can have peace. And so that doesn't, just
Right.
because you have peace doesn't mean God said do it.
Right.
So just because you're afraid doesn't mean God said don't do it.
Boom. That's, yeah. You talking good, girl.
No, I mean, you and
Yeah.
I were talking about this. Look, when we say
Yeah.
talking with the Bostons, we are talking about stuff that we
be talking about.
That we be talking about. This
Yeah.
is just the night that we say, okay,
Yeah.
let's share this with our friends and our family and our talking with the Boston's community.
Yeah.
And let's just see if it can help somebody else as we are working through and talking through some things.
Yeah.
And that's why every 6 or 7 episodes, I cry a little because stuff gets real for me. You can't, the stuff is not made up.
Yeah.
We be really out here trying our best. Who else is trying their best?
Listen.
Like, who else is out here trying?
You know y'all trying.
Who's out here like life be trying to kick you in the tail, and you're
Right.
like, I'm just gonna keep trying.
So sometimes don't be trying. Sometimes life do.
Man, sometimes it kicks
connect.
you
It will connect.
square in the hips. And
Listen.
but God.
But God.
But
Yeah.
God.
But God. I wanna bring this comment up that Chris brought up. So the one thing I've learned in life with traveling the world and embracing different cultures is that God is the same everywhere. The only thing that changed was my surroundings.
Oh wow.
And that's so real. That's real, right? Because God is the same.
Changed just right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I think understanding that no matter where you are, that if God is with you, you good. You know what I mean?
You told me that.
I remember that.
And I transitioned coming to Dallas.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, and here's the thing, guys. It was, I won't say it was chaotic transitioning from San Antonio to here. It was one of the best moves we've ever made. But it was also one of the hardest ones.
Yeah.
Why? Because things weren't terrible.
Right. Right.
See, most of us, we don't leave places that are not terrible. We had a loving church family,
right,
friends, our actual family, community, great jobs. Our kids were in school. We own a house in San Antonio. Things were not terrible for us.
Yeah, they weren't bad.
I mean, we had, we were almost living the American dream, and we're like, so who thinks that you need to move?
Yeah.
But God said, move. And I grappled with it. And I told my husband, I said, Keedren, I'm getting offered all of these positions. Like, this organization is trying to hire me, and this campus is looking for me, and this school wants to give me a principalship. We're doing great. And I said, and you are on like the quick come up, like everything is shifting for us. And he was like, I know, but that has nothing to do with who God is. God's favor is not, it's not confined to a geographic location. If we have the favor of God here in those areas, then we have the favor of God, period, because it's not where we are, it's whose we are.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
I guess I do need to take this more seriously and stop playing around. If God is saying it's time, then I need to stop telling God, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. Say, no, God, we're good. We don't need to switch up. We don't need to do anything different. Like, we just got stabilized. Like, we're starting to rock steady.
Right.
And it was that one conversation where I was just like at a loss for words. It's like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
And when we left, it didn't change a thing. We were leaving great jobs and great friends and family. But guess what, though? All of the organic and authentic relationships that we had, the authentic ones, they didn't go anywhere.
They didn't change, yeah. No, you're
and we didn't lose any opportunities.
Right.
We gained opportunities.
Yeah.
Not just because we moved, but because we were obedient to God.
Yeah.
I cannot express that enough. All of this. And I don't want to say I don't care what you believe. I do care what you believe.
For sure, yeah.
This is what I believe. This is what I know to be true. And we have come to understand this individually and collectively. There's just no life for us outside of God.
Not at all. Man, listen.
There's just nothing. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
For all of the chaos for all of the transitions that we have described. We don't smell like smoke for all the fire that we have walked through.
Right. No,
and some of you, there's this song, I forgot who sings it.
Dion Kipping.
I don't look like what I've been through.
Shout out to Dion.
Some of you, shout out to Dion.
Yeah.
Some of you don't look like what you've been through, and you know you don't. Some of you should have lost your mind. Some of you should not be able to work a job. Some of you should, the court case shouldn't have got dropped. Some of you should have been divorced. Some of you could have lost your life. Just, you can think of all of the times where things could have gone wrong. That relationship could have crumbled, that job, that opportunity, things that you know were outside of you. You could have lost it all, some of you. And you know what that thing is. But God, he blocked it. Not because he's a God of just another chance. I mean, just a second chance, but the God of another chance.
Yeah.
And because he's just merciful to us too. Sometimes it's not even a matter of a second chance or another chance. It is God simply saying, I'm preserving you because you don't see in you what I see.
That's grace. Yeah, that's good.
You don't know the purpose that I have for you. And I'm trying to keep your tail alive. It's like bringing a newborn baby home. Like, just do the best you can. Like,
yeah, man, no, for real.
Like, you're so delicate. And we just want to be careful with you. We don't want your neck to fall back too fast. And we don't want you to fall off the couch. I feel like sometimes that is how God wraps his arms around us. And he's like, I'm preserving you for something greater. And if I told you today what I have planned for tomorrow, you wouldn't even go to bed tonight. You'd stay up all night trying to figure out how you could put your little stubby hands in it and work something out, trying to help me. And he's saying, I don't need that kind of help. I don't need that kind of help. I know who you were meant to be when I created you, and that was on purpose. You're not a mistake. How you can help me is by behaving and being obedient, and listening to me. That's what you can do.
Yeah, and that's next point right here: trusting God's timing.
Boom.
Trusting God's timing. That's key, because you said it, before, that old saying, it might not come when you want them. But he'll be there right on time, and I've had so many moments in my life where it's like God came at the 9th hour.
I mean, came in clutch.
I'm like, Lord have mercy, I'm grateful that you came through,
right.
And through it all, whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're going through, I think it's important to just trust God's timing for it, because you may feel like it's time for you to dip. You may feel like this season is, at the end, like you feel like you're coming into this transition. Stay prayerful and just trust God, that he will give you wisdom to know how to move and he'll set it up. But that's important for us too, to trust God's timing in the midst of the transitions, because that's when you'll have the peace and you'll have the clarity of thought when you're locked into this. I'm just trusting God, because even to go back before, like it was, when you think about overcoming the fear of transition and when it's chaotic, and like I say, chaos is just when things are not sitting in a way that, that's normal. You know what I mean? Like when things are all over the place, or things are like just not, I don't want to say out of order, but things are just like,
sometimes they are a little out of order, maybe feel out of place. Maybe you feel out of place.
When you think of what chaotic
what your normal looks like.
Right.
It's really whatever's not your normal, not a normal.
Yeah.
But what would you say to someone who's like, okay, like I hear y'all. Trust God's timing. Here's how I can overcome my fear. What was the other one? Like find my identity. Like I can get behind all of that. Like everything that you guys are saying makes sense. But how can I know? Like what's my indicator? How do I know if it's God's timing? How do I know that he's saying stay or go? Because that was always a question for me in my 20s and 30s. Like, how do I know when I'm hearing from God? And I knew there were times when I knew after the fact, like I know I heard, from God on that, I knew I was moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
But then there were other moments where I would just get so nervous, and I'm like, I just feel so confused. I don't want to make the wrong decision. I don't want it to be me thinking that it's what God is saying I should do right now. So what would you say to someone who's like asking that question? Like, I hear y'all, but how can I know? Because that's what I have issues with, like just knowing.
Yeah, I think, to that point, I know we always just want to know how it's going to happen, how it's going to be, and I think the bigger thing to understand is that God knows.
Yes.
And he knows you.
Yes.
Right. Because I remember one particular transition where I just needed to know, like, specifically, God, like, if this happened right here, then I know this was you.
Right.
And then that happened. Okay, God, if this happened, then I know it was you. Sometimes, like, I've had those situations where I'm like, God, I need you to show me this way. If you do it like this, God, then I know that was you. And when those things happened, then I had to face the music. I had to do what God was telling me to do. I had to be obedient. I had to make the move. I had to have the conversation, because I was being prayerful about those things. And then there was other times where I feel like, God just, as I'm praying and saying, God, I just need you to show me this. And then he will put people on my heart to have conversations with. You know what I mean? Because there's safety in a multitude of counsel. Like, there's a lot of things we weren't doing on our own, like just having conversations with people. Point. And a lot of times, as much as we can when it comes to that, like when it comes to it, to a point where it's like, we need to hear some more voices, trusted voices on this, and so the key to that is to, share, of course, what you're believing God for, what you're praying for, and then just listen, to the people that you trust. For us, it was some spiritual leaders and brothers that were ancestors that we knew and trusted throughout our life. And a lot of stuff that they would say were already things that God was already putting in our hearts, a conversation that we were already having. So it was like, it was confirmation even in that, you know what I mean? And so
you owe me a soda.
Okay. So sometimes you will pray and ask God to help you and show you. Mm-hmm. And then God will put somebody on your heart to have a conversation where I need to call so-and-so and just tell them to pray with me about this thing. Right. And God may speak to you through them about something he's already told you about. And you didn't even mention it to them. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think that's how we can know, but I think ultimately it just goes to trusting God and his timing and to saying, God, especially if you're sincere about it. When we're sincere about really wanting God's
his input help, and not what we want,
man, he's not going to leave you hanging. And he's never like, dang, God has not left us hanging, because I remember this transition. Like I say, this was this latest one. I mean, it was over 5 years ago. I think it was the biggest transition that we've ever had because as adults,
moving away together.
For real. But as adult, but even for my whole life, like moving away, moving my family, moving away from my parents, like knowing that this is where I was going to be for however, whatever amount of time. I don't know. Yeah. But I just knew it was time. I was so intentional about saying, God, if this is you, like this is your daughter, these are your children, I do not want to move if you're not saying to move. Right. You know what I mean? Right. It's not about what I feel like we're going to, because it wasn't something that we were looking for. It was something that God set up that he could only do. But just being prayerful and intentional about that, God knows your heart. People always say that. He really does. He really does, though. So if we're trying to be deceitful and manipulate, we can't do that to God.
Right.
All he sees is the real.
That's right.
You know what I mean? We can show people what we want them to see, but God sees the real me. Absolutely. And so that's what I would say to that.
I think that's a great response. I feel like what you said is still helping me even now, because one thing I have learned is that God has taken into account human error.
Yeah.
So sometimes we move in a way that he does not tell us, and he already knew that too.
Mm-hmm.
His mercy and his grace comes in, I think, when he knows the true intent of our heart. And it's like you said, when people like, God knows my heart, usually that's because people are trying to dismiss being held accountable to people, and they just revert to saying, well, God knows my heart. Well, the truth is he does. And so if you're living a little sideways and you're just saying that, God knows my heart, to dismiss whoever's trying to hold you accountable, God is actually holding you accountable for whether or not you know right from wrong and are still making the decisions that have you living sideways. So that line alone does not dismiss God from actually knowing our hearts. And the way we get to know the heart of God too is by being in prayer with him. Prayer is not just the time that we spend to make our requests known. It is a time that we can make our requests known. It is a time for us to pour out our heart to him, but it's also a time to listen, because prayer is a conversation. Prayer is the conversation with God. Knowing the heart of God also includes getting into your word. You can learn more about the heart of God by just reading what he says. Sometimes reading how something else happened, whether it's the Old Testament or the New Testament, you pick a book. But just knowing how Jesus moved through the Old Testament and seeing how he moved through the Old Testament and seeing the parallels between Jesus being evident in Old Testament and God being evident in the New Testament, see how he responded to things, see how people then walked with him because they had uncertainty. They had to move. They had to make decisions that they were uncertain of. We know the stories of Moses, Abraham, Noah, all having to do things that caused them to have some faith, but not certainty. They were certain that they trusted God, but they weren't certain of the outcome, and they were still willing to move. And then we see how God showed up for them. When Moses was concerned about going to speak to Pharaoh about letting the children of Israel go, he was like, God, I can't do this. I'm not even, I don't even have finesse when it comes to my language. I'm not articulate. I can't even do this. He's like, don't worry about that. I'm telling you to go because I'm giving you the authority and the mantle to command my presence in this space. How many times do you think Moses got discouraged and was like, Pharaoh was like, get out. He didn't care. He didn't listen. And God had to keep sending plagues and keep sending. He was like, no, I'm going to keep sending a plague and I'm going to keep sending you to go talk to this man. You are the one that I have chosen. And then he led them out of Israel. He was the one. So we see how God showed up for him. Noah spent 120 years trying to tell the people that God was sending a flood. They needed to get their life right. He couldn't find another single person to live righteous besides him and his family. And he spent 120 years building the ark with just him and his family preparing for this flood. And we see how God showed up for Noah and his family, not just during that time. He preserved all of their lives. He got them on the boat. They survived the 40 days and the 40 nights of the flooding and went on to be the people that God would use to repopulate the earth again. We see God show up. We saw him do with Abraham when he told Abraham, you have to leave. And when he told him you have to sacrifice your son, but you have to also leave your hometown and don't look back. All these times we see God show up, different situations, but you see the same God. And you see a God where when his people who believed in him, trusted in him, you saw him show up. Did they like everything he told them to do? Did he always show up the way they thought he would? Absolutely not. You think Noah thought it was going to take him 120 years to build this boat? That's number one. After somebody tells you that they're going to do something for you, listen. When someone said,
he didn't know when it was going to rain.
He didn't know when it was going to happen.
And
he still had to trust God. The only thing these men of God were certain about was that God was faithful. Yeah. They trusted in him, not what they knew, not what they understood, not what things look like. And there was no timeline for them to trust. All they knew is that this is what God said. And that is a radical kind of faith to have. But, it was worth it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Anyway, I didn't mean to give, the Bible study on that. But listen. It was just like knowing God's word will teach you more about the personality of God. Yeah. And you can be more certain in who he is. And it'll take your mind off of you because you start to realize, like, my thoughts really don't match the level of how God was moving and how Jesus moved. So let me lean into what this word of God says, and let me not lean to my own understanding.
That's real. Yeah. Because God I'll tell you what, he's the same yesterday, today,
And
and
forever.
he'll still be the same tomorrow.
With certainty, we know
And
that.
that's why we can trust him, you know. And if you're at this point in your
Certainty.
life right now where you can think back on the things that God has got you through, the things you've
Yes.
survived, the things you've come through, good, bad, and ugly, the mid type things, but God has progressed you to a point where you are now. Even if you're not where you want to be, you can look back and say, man, God has
Not where I used
God
to
has
be.
God has kept me. You know what I'm saying? God is He
Yes.
saved me. He's done these
Yes,
things for
yes.
me that I recognize.
Yeah.
That should build your faith even more
Absolutely.
for the next thing that God may have for you. When you feel that tug to transition, or when things start to feel like a little different when it comes to it,
Yeah.
to what's happening in your life. But also when we're in transition, we
Ooh.
do have to learn to let go and move on too, because there's some things that we may want to hang on to that won't survive in this season. And there's some things
Oh
that
gosh, yeah.
you can't can't even be
Attached
I'm
to.
trying not to use I'll use the word that can't even be birthed in this season.
Oh yeah, I got
You know what I'm saying? And it well, can't be birthed in that. So there's some things that if you take it to this new season, it won't live. And there's some things that are inside of you that can't even be birthed in that old place. You know what I'm saying?
That is good.
And so we do have to learn to let go,
yes.
because
Wow.
I'm done with this.
Wow. Y'all.
Not that this doesn't have any significance, but for me, I'm not significant in this place
My God.
anymore, because the place can be
You got me putting
significant.
hearts in the comments.
But
Mighty
you know,
God.
I'm just saying the place can be significant that you are, but if you don't move, your significance is irrelevant. Like, you know what I'm saying? There is none.
Come
So
on.
you have to move. You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
understanding that I
Yes.
have to let go
Yes.
of those things, and I have to move on to the new things that God has for me. And I think that's important for us to understand. And so
Yeah.
no matter how crazy it looks, no matter how wild it looks, if you really are trusting God and you feel like God is saying it's time, God is going to make provision for everything that He has for you that's before you. You know what I mean? He's going to provide for you on the way. I love that scripture that says God that His word is a lamp unto our feet and a light into our path. You know, when I heard it said like this, where sometimes God is a lamp to our feet, like to a step by step. I see where I'm going step by step. And then maybe at certain seasons in my life, He's lit up the path a little bit more, so I can see a little further ahead. You know what I mean? Yes. But it's not always, you're never going to see the whole beaten path that God has for you. And so sometimes that can be a little scary. That can be the thing that will make us want to hold on to what we know. Hold on to the rails when it's time to go deeper. Right. God is going to give you the ability to swim or to fly or equip you with what you need for the next season. Yeah. And so I feel like that's important when it comes to that. I like it. Yeah. And go back always, God's word will always empower you to let go of the past and to embrace the new beginnings because of
and do it honorably.
Yeah.
Can I
Lord,
say that? That
please
letting go and moving on. There's a way to do it honorably. Mm-hmm. And we know because we've done it. Yeah. We've not been sneaky, snaky, or slimy. Right. In any of these transitions.
That's true.
We've had to face the music. We've had to have conversations. We've had to make some moves and decisions. We've had to have hard conversations. Yeah. And they were not easy. They were not pleasant. They were probably our least favorite part. But we did them because we choose honor over everything. We chose honor over what was easier. It would have been easier to just slide out, disappear, say we don't owe anyone anything. And that is not how we felt. Yeah. We honored the requests of leaders as we were leaving. We did things honorably. Yeah. And we honored God first and foremost. And so as you're moving on, like I know sometimes we see these videos and people are about to quit their job, and so they'll get on the PA, at the restaurant or the store, the retail store, and they'll say, "We hate management, and y'all treat everybody like trash, and you're awful people, and yada yada yada. I hate this job. Explicative. I quit and I'm out." And
remixing R&B songs,
and giving terrible shout outs to them, and just,
oh man.
But I think about those, and yes, they tend to go viral and get a lot of attention, and people in the comments and or laughter, or even people saying, "Yes, no, that is true. I know that to be true. Good job." But I also wonder, is this person going to be an entrepreneur now? Because what is their reputation at this point? What is the reputation that they've made for themselves? And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, well, are you going to be a business person? What is your business model? And character look like that's going to make other people want to partner with you in business? And I don't wish anyone bad in doing so. I'm just saying, before we model our lives after some of those behaviors and thinking that it's funny or silly because we've seen it, I'm speaking to maybe the younger or less experienced listener and saying, like, yes, have yourself a good laugh, but do not follow that model. Part of letting go and moving on and wanting to honor God in your next season is honoring God and the people and the environments and spaces around you to the best of your ability.
Right. Man, that's so good, because you never know, especially when you're living a life, when you're living a godly life, you got to understand that if you're dealing with people, first of all, that love God as well, and it's just a different season in y'all's life that you're in together, you have to understand that you're still a part of the body. You have to understand that we still have to live right together, and you never know what's going to happen. If God will bring things full circle where you'll reconnect and not necessarily do the same things you were before, but you have to understand that those kind of things, it's not good to be bridge burners. You know what I mean? And that should never be the case, even if you never cross that bridge again.
Right.
That's not the goal here. Moving forward, if I got to stop and I got to set something on fire before I move forward, I can't see the good in that. But anyway,
and also it's helped us too, because we couldn't sit here where we are 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later, and talk about honorably moving into your purpose and letting go and moving on if we had burned bridges. Because the same bridge that's behind you could be the very bridge that you need to turn around and face to help bring somebody over.
No, that's so real. And you know what else I see too, like throughout the years, and I challenge you all to think about this too in your transitions. How much have you grown? How much have you realized how courageous you are or you've been in those seasons? Because I know even when I look back 15 years, 20 years ago, and some of the transitions that I've had through those times, and some of the hard conversations that I've had, I've recognized how much stronger I got. And looking back and seeing how courageous I was to have those conversations or to make those moves when I didn't know all the time what it was going to look like in the next season of my life or our life. You know what I mean?
People would almost ask us that sometimes, like as a quiz. Well, where are you going to go? Or, well, how is this going to work out? And it was like, if we couldn't answer it, that was supposed to be an indicator that we weren't supposed to do it. And our answer was like, we don't have everything figured out. God is ordering our steps. But I know that having this conversation is one of those steps. So just one obedient thing at a time is all we can do.
No, because I know we truly wanted what God had for us. And wanted to be where God wanted us to be. You know what I mean? Like,
and you mentioned this before.
What's that?
It was bigger than just us.
That's
Our
true.
obedience
Yeah.
was bigger than just us. We
Yeah.
have a family.
That's true. That
we
is
have
true.
children.
Yeah.
So if we're out of place, what does that mean for our kids?
Right. No, that's real. That's real.
Then they're out of place with us.
Right. And that's definitely not something that we've ever wanted. And
Right.
even as a father and a husband leading a family, that's something I was not going to
come on
accept.
As a husband and a father.
Okay.
That's
That's just something that I wasn't going to accept when it comes to that. And we're getting ready to finish up here, but and we'll finish on that note. But when you're stepping into the unknown, there's a lot required of that. You know what I'm saying? To step into, there's courage, there's faith. That is required to step into the unknown, but knowing that you're not alone is key. Knowing that you have, knowing who you have, right? Knowing that God is with you. If you're trusting God in these transitions, understanding that he's got you covered, but also the people that are in your circle, the people that are in your life. Life is an adventure, you know what I mean? And if you do it right, if you do it with the right people, you might not always do it right, but if you do it with people that that are that love you and that want to see you win and hold you accountable, but will also pick you up when you fall down. It's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean?
We're so blessed to have that.
For sure.
I believe we are that to some of our friends, and I'm certain that we have friends and family that are that to us.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And you know us, we never get on here to sugarcoat, and we're not going to overshare. We believe there's seasons for everything, right. But what we always want to be is real, raw, and transparent. That will always be the promise of this channel. When you talk to us, you might not get everything in one sitting, but you'll never get a lie.
For sure.
How about that?
Yeah, that's
we
right.
Share at the level that we are comfortable, and we believe that there are just certain things that have become testimonies for us, and we reflect on them in this season of our life, because we're in a season still, and we have some transitions ahead of us. We're only 40, and we still have 2 kids that are not in college. We have 2 kids that are. We only have 1 that's moved out.
Yeah.
So we have some life things that are still going to be happening. And this will be the same advice, whether it feels good, it feels bad. All of these things that we've shared tonight are still going to be the way we move. And we're just going to continue to trust God. And we just encourage y'all to do the same thing and have a hope and great expectation that in the God who made you and loves you and sees you and hears you and knows you, just that certainty of knowing those things and knowing that he has a plan for you, you can take courage and have a little bit more confidence, we hope, leaving us tonight, that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything, you're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
If you can follow any of this, if you picked up on anything that we put down, and and you're nowhere, because you didn't need us. Some of you just needed a reminder. You just need to have a conversation. You didn't have anybody else right now to talk about this with. And we just happen to be here. And so we're just hanging out like family. And you got to think about some things that you just might not have thought about or talked about. So we encourage you, if you do have your own friend village and family and stuff, and you want to continue the conversation or continue it in the Talking with the Bostons Facebook group, let's do it. Go do that. Take this back to your friends and family and share with them. Tag some of them even, and have a conversation about it.
Right.
But this is really us just pouring out what we have to you. This is what we want for our kids.
No, for sure.
Same advice,
Yeah,
so
that's good. That's good.
Just what we have, we freely give.
Yeah. And we're all living life, right? If y'all are seeing this, and we're all living life, and transitions happen in more ways than one. It's not always where you're having to uproot your whole family and move to one city to the next. Sometimes it's jobs, sometimes it's relationships, sometimes it's moving forward in relationships or friendships and things like that, and so it's important to be prayerful and purposeful when it comes to this. I want to pull up some comments when it comes to this real quick. So we have Mary. Hey, Mary, how you doing? She says, this is confirmation. I've been talking with my mom lately about being mindful about how you treat people, but also being grateful because you never know who you'll need. And that's real talk. We do have
that
to
leading
do
with
that.
honor, like how you deal with people,
Exactly.
being respectful and responsible in your comings and your goings,
right?
Because you
just never know.
You just never know.
Yeah.
And how about this?
Even and you want to be good to people either way.
Even like it's good to be good to people for that. Like keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But there are some people you may never ever need again, but maybe they need your kindness.
Yeah, too. That's
maybe real. Because we do think even in honoring people who maybe are not acting honorably, there are times when we know we're just sowing seed.
Yeah. Man, that's
sometimes the best way to honor someone too is just to not dishonor them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the only other strategy you have.
Right.
But when you can choose kindness, choose kindness. When you can choose honor, when you can choose respect and kindness, choose those things.
Yeah, that's good. You definitely don't want to have that in your heart.
No.
Letting things go.
Yes.
Because you don't want to harbor that. Lord have mercy.
No. And I want to, and honestly, like it might sound very naive and childlike, but I do still want to make God proud in my walk. I'm 40. The way I want my kids to still honor God and make God smile with their good choices, I still want to make him smile too.
Yeah.
I still want to be an image bearer of Christ and his love and his patience. Now, it does not mean like people don't walk over me. You don't get to do that. God has not called us to do that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when peace is an option, choose peace.
Right.
When kindness is an option, because anger and frustration and telling somebody off is also an option. Sometimes you may just need to put someone in their place respectfully and say, I understand how you feel. I disagree, but I also won't be spoken to that way. So I'm just going to end this conversation. Bye. Some of y'all might say, God bless you, but I might not. I might just say bye. And I'm not going to dishonor you. I'm not going to be disrespectful.
Right.
I'm not going to match your energy. Right. I'm not doing that either.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to match my Father because I'm an image bearer of Christ. And I'm trying to be. I don't even perfect that. But if I'm trying, I'm not willing to forfeit that for a moment that my flesh just wants to feel better.
Yeah.
Because neither my spirit man nor my flesh will feel better later when I'm thinking and reflecting over how I conducted myself, because I'm only responsible for me.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for my husband. I'm not responsible for how nobody else treats me. How I respond is all on me. And I still want to make my Father proud, my Heavenly Father proud. And so that is my motivation. Whatever yours is, maybe you just don't want to show out in front of your kids because you want to be a good role model. That's another great reason to not make certain moves.
Yeah.
Right? Because your reputation and your character are really all you have. And the Bible says that a good reputation is worth more than rubies and golds and all of that stuff. A good name, a good reputation. So as we go into legacy and impact, I think that might be the segue.
Yeah. No, most definitely. Thinking about that, in transitions in life, that our choices, our transitions sometimes shape how we impact our future generations.
Absolutely.
Right. Our transitions sometimes shape how we they impact future generations.
Yes, they do.
Understanding the moves that we make are going to last longer than
the feeling we had when we made.
That's real talk. And some of our choices are going to outlive us.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's the key. That's the thing to understand. They will. And so they will impact our future generations. And so if you know that it's time to step up, to have that conversation in order to get that thing that God has placed on your heart to pursue, to step in and to put in the work to build what God told you to build, understand that your choices will outlive you, for better or for worse. And that's the legacy and the impact that will be left for your children and your children's children. And I think that's important. So thinking from going from chaos, because things are are being a little shook up because it's time
Right.
to move.
They're outside of your normal.
Yeah, now moving into purpose because you have been purposeful and intentional about making those moves.
Yeah.
That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's important to never forget. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
that's a solid point. Your legacy and your impact. And for those of you, if you feel like, man, dang, I've definitely been one of them people, I've not moved and transitioned well, you're not done living. And
That's
there's a
true.
reason why you're on this live tonight having this conversation. So we pray that if you are feeling that, that's called conviction. It's not condemnation. Trust me, we are not judging you. We're not looking at your name on the screen thinking that we can barely see the screen and names right now. Like truly and honestly, that's not our goal. But if you're self-reflecting on that right now, that's a good thing. That means you're wise.
Yeah.
Wise men learn from their past and their decision making, and they make better ones in the future. That's all this conversation is about. So if you're thinking about those things, it's not too late. If you still have breath in your body, that means there's still life to be lived, and there is still legacy and impact to be left in this earth. And you have that opportunity. So it's all yours. You get to decide what that legacy is, and you might not be able to measure the impact, right? Great or small, but any positive impact is plenty of impact.
Yeah.
But you do get to choose the legacy that you leave in this earth from the way you move and the decisions that you make. And so before you think about how it impacts anybody else, just pause and reflect on how your decisions will impact you and what they mean between you and God, because establishing your identity in Christ is first and foremost. What is God calling you to do? What has he put inside you? What has he gifted you for? Because whatever that thing is, it's undone, and he wants to continue that work on the inside of you. And he wants you to reach your highest potential before you leave this earth. That is his gift to you. Purpose is perfectly packaged just uniquely for us. And so if you believe that and you feel that, let us know in the comments. You can do that with some hearts, or you can say, amen, that's me, I received that. Whatever that looks like, let us know in the comments that you have received that for you. And again, that's not about us. That's just you taking another step of faith and say, I'm going to declare this over my life, that if there's still life and breath in my body, I still have time to make intentional moves that are going to positively impact myself, the world around me. And thinking about yourself first is not selfish.
Right.
Because you're accountable for you first.
Yeah.
Before anything else. And out from you, everything else will flow into everything else in your environment and the people that you love and care about. So check on you, and just spend some time reflecting. There's no rush, but you do have time. So I just want to encourage you with that.
That's good. That's good. And seek God's guidance. Seek God's guidance and his wisdom.
Ask, seek, knock.
Seek God's guidance and his wisdom so you can navigate with grace. So you can navigate these transitions with grace and confidence. Seek God's wisdom and guidance so you can navigate any of life's transitions with grace and confidence, but also knowing that God is with you every step of the way. You know what I mean? No matter how chaotic it look, God will can always turn that thing around.
That's right.
That will lead you to your purpose.
That's right.
So be intentional, be prayerful. And we're praying for you. And let's keep this conversation going. I think so. In the Facebook group, I think I want to hear a little bit more.
I know we're going to hear more about this, because this is one of those things. It's like a lifelong thing. Like you said earlier, we're always in transition.
Yeah.
But if you are listening us tonight and you are listening from Facebook, thank you. If you're listening to us by way of Talking with the Boston's Facebook group, thank you
Yes,
for
sure.
showing up. Thank you for just chiming in and hanging out with us. I hate to say it's support because we feel like it's an even exchange. Like we feel like it's mutual. We enjoy hanging out with y'all just as much as we hope that you can appreciate hanging out with us on Sunday nights. But if you're not following us on YouTube, we do have a YouTube page. It's called Talking with the Boston. So it's youtube.com/with-the-Boston.
The link is in the description. So in the video,
Yes,
if you're watching this from Facebook in a group, you can actually click in the description and subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the notification bell, so that way you can get all the alerts and things like that let you all know when we go live. Please feel free to share this if this has added any value to your time, vis-a-vis your life.
Absolutely.
Please share this. But we appreciate y'all. I just pray that y'all have a productive week, no matter when you watch this. If it's Wednesday, then pray that you finish the week strong. If it's Monday, pray that you have a great rest of your week. And for those of you who are watching live, thank you for tuning in. We love y'all, and we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Talking with the Bostons.
All right, same time next week, 7 p.m. Central. Bye, guys.